You may have a job, maybe even a decent salary, but then why are you still worried about tomorrow? Why do your dreams of financial freedom remain just dreams? Friends, this isn't about fate or luck. It's about mindset. In this video, I will show how I personally went from a poor clerk to a millionaire by changing only one thing, my financial mindset. And at the end, you'll get a practical formula that you can start using today. Subscribe and let's go together. In a world where over 60% of people live paycheck to paycheck, a paradox emerges. We work more than ever, yet financial anxiety is with us every day. Have you noticed how hard it is to focus on a big goal when bills are weighing on your shoulders? How strange it is. We have income, but not peace. We have a bank card, but no control. And while we search for a new job or a raise, the real reason for our instability lies elsewhere. Not in the wallet, but in the mind. Not in the numbers, but in the mindset. I realized this at 25. I was broke, disappointed, and without a single prospect. My wallet was empty, but my vision was even emptier. No one taught me how to relate to money, how to think, how to build not just profit, but abundance. All I knew was how to work hard, but hard work without the right financial mindset leads not to wealth, but to exhaustion. That's why this conversation isn't about accounting, and it's not about investments. It's about a transformation of thinking, and about how to change your attitude toward money so that money no longer controls you. Because, as I've said in my seminars, you will either manage your money, or it will manage you. And once you grasp that, once you take your finances into your own hands, everything begins to change. Your energy, your decisions, your confidence. So I want to guide you through the journey. I myself walked from the moment when I didn't even have $2 to put gas in my car, to the moment I learned how to build capital that works even while I sleep. We'll talk about your relationship with money, about financial identity, about the mental blocks keeping you stuck at one level. And at the end, I'll give you a simple but powerful practice that changes the game. Because the truth is this, you cannot hold on to money longer than you can imagine having it. Your mindset is the container, and if it's small, great wealth will simply spill out. So it's time to expand that container. Let's begin. When I was very young, money was simply the result of work. The more you work, the more you have. But over time, I saw that this wasn't true. I knew people who worked from 5 in the morning to 9 at night, yet their finances remained at a survival level. And on the other hand, I met people who didn't seem to work harder than others, yet their lives were filled with abundance. Why? At first, I thought it was luck. But it's not luck, it's mindset. More precisely, financial identity. You attract not what you want, but who you are. This rule applies to finances, too. You can't hold on to wealth if you have a poverty mindset. I lived this myself. After hearing a talk by Earl Schaff, I started keeping a journal, and the first thing I wrote was, I think like a poor person, and that has to change. I realized until I changed myself on the inside, no amount of money on the outside will change my life. Financial identity is how you see yourself in the context of money. It's your internal normal, the level you subconsciously return to. For example, if you subconsciously believe that $500 is a lot, then even if you earn $1,000, most of it will slip through your fingers. You'll unconsciously find a way to return to your normal. It's like a thermostat. As soon as the temperature goes above the set point, the system cools it back down. The same happens with money. You can't hold on to more than you believe is normal for you. I vividly remember the moment I first changed my thermostat. It wasn't magical, it came through awareness. I sat down, took a sheet of paper, and wrote, how much money do I feel is acceptable for me? How much am I ready to hold without shame, fear, or self-sabotage? And the answer was very little. My mind wasn't ready to receive large sums. So I started working, not on my wallet, but on my mind. Not on income, but on beliefs. We all have an idea of what is a lot and what is too much. For some, that limit is $1,000. For others, it's $1 million. But it's not the number that matters. It's the feeling. How do you feel when you receive more? Do you feel shame, fear, Or do you immediately start looking for ways to spend it? Because money doesn't stay long. If so, that's a sign your identity isn't ready for a higher level yet. Changing your identity begins with a new vision of yourself. I started imagining myself as someone who handles finances with ease, who invests rather than spends, who builds capital rather than looks for discounts. I repeated to myself, I am someone who knows how to save and grow money. This wasn't self-hypnosis. It was a reprogramming of my deep self-image. Because if you still see yourself as someone who's just getting by, you'll return to that place even if you win $1 million. I've seen it again and again. People win the lottery and are in debt a few months later. Why? Because they're rich on the outside, but not on the inside. And as long as the gap between the internal image and external success is too wide, self-sabotage kicks in. The mind finds a way to drain the money through impulsive purchases, bad investments, and inability to say no. Remember when I said, your money won't grow higher than you do? That's exactly about identity. If you want income growth, start with personal growth. Become someone who can manage wealth. That's what matters. And this isn't about financial literacy courses, although those help. It's about something deeper. Can you see yourself as wealthy without disgust, shame, or inner resistance? I used to do an exercise. I'd walk around my apartment and say aloud, as if I were already a millionaire, I'm Jim, Ron, and I make $1 million a year. At first, it felt fake, but over time, I started to feel it. And once it felt normal on the inside, opportunities started appearing on the outside. It was as if the world finally understood. Oh, he's ready. It's like a magnet. If your inner frequency matches the frequency of wealth, it starts to attract. But as long as your frequency is tuned to lack, you'll repel even the opportunities right in front of you. You won't recognize them, believe in them, or accept them. I want you to reflect. Who are you in terms of money? I'm not asking how much you earn. I'm asking, who do you believe you are? A worker who's just surviving? Someone who wasn't born for wealth? Or maybe, just maybe, you're starting to see yourself as someone who can own assets, invest, and create income streams. Because it all starts with that self-image. That's why I always say, don't change the circumstances, change yourself. Don't ask for a better salary. Become the kind of person who doesn't need a salary because they create their own income. And then you won't even need to ask. The offers will come to you because the world responds not to what you want, but to who you are. When my mindset began to change, I realized one simple truth. Wealth is not an event, it's a process. It's not a jackpot, a promotion, or a lucky break. It's discipline, habits, and most importantly, financial philosophy. After my conversations with Earl Schaff, I began to literally reprogram myself to adopt a new attitude toward money. And the first thing I learned was this: it doesn't matter how much you earn if you don't know how to manage even a little. I was earning $57 a week, and Schaff told me, Jim, you have to learn to live on 70% of your income. I replied, how can I? It's already not enough. And he said, that's exactly why you're poor. It was like a slap, but a wake-up slap. He taught me that discipline is more than restriction, it's the path to freedom. So I started with a simple rule: spend 70, save 10, invest 10, give away 10%. Yes, even when I had very little, realized it's not about the amount. It's about the habit. If you can't save from 10, you won't save from $10,000. If you can't manage 100, $1 million will break you. Financial habit is like a muscle. It needs training. Not emotionless, chaotic, but systematic. I began each day by tracking my expenses. I monitored my impulse purchases, my weak spots. And when someone said, it's only $5, I replied, those $5 eat up your future. Because it's not about the size of the expense, but about unconsciousness. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen people make is thinking that more income will solve their financial problems. But the truth is, most people just scale their mistakes. They earn more, but spend more. They have a nicer car, but higher debt. And I tell them, you're not richer, you're just more expensive. I learned to live differently. When my income increased, I didn't immediately change my lifestyle. I increased savings, investments, and only then spending. I asked myself a simple question: this purchase a need or an emotion? If it was emotion, I waited 72 hours. Most often, the urge disappeared. It wasn't restriction, it was freedom. Here's another habit. Every month, I held a financial meeting with myself. Yes, just me. I sat down, opened my records, and asked myself, what did I spend on? What did it give me? How can I improve? These meetings gave me more than any investment course, because the main investment is self-awareness. Another shift that changed my financial life was shifting focus from income to assets. Most people think in terms of salaries. They ask, how much do I earn per hour? But that's a trap. There are only 24 hours in a day. If you sell your time, you are limited. So I learned to ask instead, what can I create that will work even when I sleep? These can be investments, intellectual products, businesses that don't require my presence. I call it shifting from income for labor to income for value. That's a key mindset shift because jobs can be taken away. Titles can be cut. But value is always in demand. I started creating products, audios, seminars, books. When someone asked, why record a disc if you already got paid for the speech? I said, because the disc works while I sleep. That was the essence of my financial thinking, to create assets that generate income regardless of my time. And one more thing: environment. Your finances reflect your surroundings. I often said you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If everyone around you talks only about gas prices, discounts, and debts, it's hard to think in terms of investing capital and wealth. So I started deliberately seeking out a different circle. People who talked about growth, about assets, about opportunities. And even when I didn't have such people nearby, I listened to recordings, read books, programmed myself. Because every day, you must stand guard at the gate of your mind. If you don't let in the negative, it won't destroy. Eventually, I saw how these simple habits change not only my finances, but also my self-perception. Because, wealth isn't just about money. It's about confidence, about choice, about being able to say no without fear, and yes without debt. And it all begins with discipline. Small, daily, sometimes boring, but it's what creates great freedom. I keep repeating, it doesn't matter how much you earn. What matters is who you become in the process. Because that person, the new version of you, the magnet that attracts abundance. And the path to that version is habits. Not emotional spending, but structured decisions. Not chaotic consumption, but conscious creation. Not the question, how quickly can I earn, but how long can I retain? After I began introducing discipline into my finances, after I learned to think in terms of assets, value, and long-term vision, something deeper happened. Something rarely discussed in financial books. I called it inner freedom. It's that state where money no longer dictates your decisions, where you don't buy to impress, don't work to please, don't live out of fear, but act from dignity. Let me explain. Most people don't just want money. They want a sense of control, security, respect. But they mistakenly believe that money alone will provide this. So they chase after numbers, status symbols, but when they get them, nothing changes inside. The fear doesn't go away, the anxiety returns, and something whispers, it's not enough. I've been there, and I'll tell you, it's exhausting. One day, speaking in front of 1,000 people, I suddenly realized I was earning more than I had ever imagined. But my self-perception hadn't shifted because of the amount. It shifted because of the journey I took to earn it. It was discipline, control over my desires, and conscious planning that gave me not just wealth, but dignity. Because wealth isn't about the number of things. It's about the quality of your inner state. That's when I understood money is a litmus test for character. It doesn't change a person. It reveals them. Who you are just gets louder. If you're generous, you'll be more generous. If greedy, more greedy. If insecure, you'll seek even more external validation. Only when there is calm, confidence, and self-respect within, only then can you live with money without becoming its slave. I saw this time and again. People who earned large sums but lost it all because they weren't mentally prepared. They still lived in scarcity inside. Others with modest means built capital because they acted from clarity. Clarity is the real capital. Because when you know who you are and what you want, money becomes a tool, not the goal. And only then does it begin working for you. I often say money doesn't change you, it reveals you. And if you want financial growth, ask yourself, are you ready? Truly ready, emotionally, morally, strategically, to handle bigger scales? Because wealth is responsibility, it's power, and with power always comes a choice. To build or to destroy, to serve or to use. One more thing I realized, wealth is not just how much you have, but how much you can give. Yes, you heard right. Give. Because generosity is the highest form of freedom, when you can give without fear of loss, when you live with a sense of abundance. I always set aside 10% for charity, not because I had too much, but because I wanted to remind myself I live in a world of plenty, not lack. Again, it's not about numbers. It's about the state of the soul. Your generosity is a reflection of your mindset. People with a scarcity mentality are afraid to share, afraid there won't be enough. And I'll tell you, when you give with the right heart, more comes. The world gives to those who give. It's not magic, it's principle, like a sower planting seeds. He's not afraid to lose them because he knows the harvest will come. And one more thing. If you want a financial transformation, stop treating money as the enemy. Change your language. How many times have I heard, I hate money, it causes problems, money is evil. But how can you attract what you despise? Money is neither good nor bad. It's a tool like a hammer. You can use it to build a house or break a window, but it's not the hammer's fault. It's the hand that wields it. So I taught myself to speak differently. Money is opportunity, is choice. It is a tool for service. And once my language changed, my reality changed too. Because language shapes consciousness, and consciousness shapes actions, and actions create results. So, friends, here's what I've learned over all these years. You can have financial freedom, but it doesn't start with a paycheck and not with a business. It starts with you, with who you believe you are, with your habits, with your mindset. And once there's order inside, abundance will follow on the outside. Because, as I've often said, don't work harder. Become greater in character, in clarity, in philosophy. And then money will find its way to you. Not because you chase it, but because you've become the kind of person who attracts it through dignity, clarity, and maturity. I know that when you hear all this, a question may arise. But where do I start? Too often we get inspired, we agree, we even write down quotes. But within a few days, it all fades away. Why? Because there was no inner dialogue. That moment when you sit down, turn off all the screens, and honestly ask yourself, how does this apply to me? That's why I'm inviting you now into a conversation with yourself. Imagine that you and I are sitting in the same room. I'm across from you, and I'm not telling you about myself. I'm asking questions, and not rhetorical ones, but questions you need to answer, not for me, for yourself. So close your eyes. If it feels comfortable, take a piece of paper and be honest. Because only honesty gives direction. On a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 means not at all, and 10 means absolutely. Answer. How much control do you feel you have over your finances right now? You. How closely does your financial identity, who you believe you are, align with the level of prosperity you're aiming for? How systematically do you manage your expenses, investments, and income? How comfortable are you with the idea of large sums of money? Is there fear, shame, or doubt? How ready are you to change, not your circumstances, but your habits, environment, and thinking? Write down your answers. Take your time. And here's what's important. Don't judge yourself. This is not an exam. It's a map. And a map shows where you are and where you want to go. Now, get your lowest score. That's your weak spot. The place where your energy is leaking today. Where your strength is draining. And what do we do with that? We make a simple, clear action plan for 1 week, just 7 days, but with focus. For example, if you gave a 3 on the financial discipline question this week, you write down every single expense, even chewing gum, even coffee. Without awareness, there's no change. If your lowest score is on the identity question, then each morning you say out loud the affirmation, I am a person who knows how to manage money, I build capital, I am worthy of financial growth. Not because it's magic, but because repetition shapes new reality. Your task for the week is not to change everything, but to start changing one thing. Just one. Because change doesn't like chaos, it loves focus. Remember, small daily actions lead to big shifts. You don't need a revolution, you need a system. And one more request, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, not for the numbers, but to remind yourself you are in the process. You're not alone, and every time a new video comes out, it's not just content, it's a wake-up call, like an alarm clock. Time to act, time to build, time to be your true self at the level of wealth. And if you enjoyed this episode, if it resonated, leave a comment. Right. The point of change is named the exact weak spot you'll be working on. Do it not for me, for you. Because the written word holds power, the spoken word commits, and action transforms. You know what? I realized long after I'd left behind that boy from Idaho who couldn't afford gas, that wealth is not a number, it's a state. It's the ability to be at peace with yourself when you have a choice, when you don't have to chase, hide, or prove anything. When you are simply you, calm, grounded, aware, and most importantly, free. I've walked this path from shame to confidence, from debt to capital, from living in reaction to living by choice. And if I could do it starting from zero, I know you can too. Because what matters most is not the starting point. What matters is the direction. And every morning when you wake up, life offers you a choice. Stay where you are or take a step forward. Remember my words, don't work harder, become greater. Grow in your mindset. Grow in your discipline, your dignity. Because that's what leads to true wealth. Not the kind that flashes, but the kind that lasts. Wealth that lives not in your wallet, but in your character. And when you become the person who knows how to create, manage, and multiply, then wealth comes on its own. Because it doesn't come to those who beg. It comes to those who are ready. Today, you've taken an important step. You've given yourself a new thought, a new question, a new image of who you are. Don't stop now, because life isn't a race. It's a creation, and you are the artist, and only you can decide what appears on the canvas. See you in the next video, and as I've always said, work harder on yourself than on your job, and everything will change.